I understand that we're going to see some clips from episodes that involve Donna Laundrie, and it's so terribly, I think, ironic, sad that after she's been here for so many years, a loyal member of the gang, and then finally, when she appears on the screen, she can't be here. So bless her heart, and I hope that everything goes well with her in her trial at the moment. But anyway, I don't know how I'm going to be able to help. I'm going to count on you people to tell me what's going on the screen. Because I had not seen these episodes probably ever. I think when from the time Donna got on the collapsing here. Oh, well, somebody's trying to get in my act. If you bring me something in that, you're welcome. Anyway, where was I? Talking about the episodes that I don't remember. And this particular time, when we were doing these episodes, everything was so disorganized around the studio, we were just rushed upstairs to tape, please not tape, but to read next day's scripts. And so that we never really had a chance to even see the episodes that were being aired. We used to do that in the early days, but in the latter days, I don't remember ever having a chance to see very much of what we did, unless we were off for a week and we stayed home or what. But anyway, we'll see what I do remember. I remember two wonderful things about Donna, which I don't think probably would ever come across on the screen, but she had the most beautiful complexion of any woman I ever knew in my life, and still does. I'm talking like we were all blonde or something, but beautiful hair, red hair, and this wonderful complexion, and a delight to work with. She was a sweetheart of a girl, and I'm sorry she's not here tonight this afternoon. Well, I guess we should start with things and see what we can make of them.
Okay,
help me, please.
Before we start, I'd like to reiterate, we have two ladies out in the audience that will be calling you to the microphone, so please raise your hand before you ask a question, and Nancy and Helen will be on the prowl, and they'll pluck you out of the audience, and you can feel free to ask your questions. So we can give that a try so everyone can hear your questions. Thank you.
Oh, you. Outside, it's you.
I'm sorry. Do we know each other? Who are you?
Barnum's Collins.
Well, we haven't met, and yet you know my name. How?
I knew someone exactly like you at another time. Her name was Roxanne. Roxanne Drew.
That's my last name. Where did you say you knew this girl?
Very near here. But in another time.
Another time. Well, you mean many years ago? You see, I've been here just a few weeks. Sebastian and I work together. I can't tell you how this fascinates me, Mr. Collins. Now, did this Roxanne have a family near here?
No, she lived alone.
And she's gone now.
Yes. Gone.
How incredible. Sebastian had told me about astral twins.
Astral twins?
Yes. People who are born in different parts of the country, usually at the same same exact moment. Their horoscopes are the same, but very often they have similar names. Their lives parallel each other to every detail. I never thought I had an astral twin.
And it doesn't frighten me.
Why should it? No. I want to meet your Roxanne.
That will not be possible.
You say that with such finality.
Perhaps you'll make up for the fact that she's not here.
Were you waiting to see Sebastian?
I've seen him. He was meditating.
Oh, yes. It is time for that.
Am I keeping you from him?
No.
Then you don't mind if I stay a while? If you work together, perhaps you can help me. You see, I came here to ask you to finish my cousin Carolyn's horoscope, but for some reason she refused to do it. I was thinking that perhaps you might help to change his mind.
Oh, I wouldn't do it. Sebastian does what he wants to do.
And you admire?
Very much.
Well, since you work together, perhaps you could finish it yourself.
Mr. Collins, we do work together. I couldn't possibly do something that he's refused to finish.
It's true. Roxanne, can we discuss this further?
No.
But I do want to see you again. I'm fascinated by the idea of astral twins. We have much to discuss. Can I see you again?
Of course.
Are you free later this evening? We might have a late dinner.
Mr. Collins.
Please.
All right.
I'll keep you up at 10.
No. No, I'll meet you later.
Till 10.
Oh, late what? What was on my mind at that point? Well, indeed, that was a revelation and a very striking memory. Indeed, her peaches and cream complexion comes through rather nicely, although it was even better than that. And sorry she's not here today to prove it. Does anybody here have a question about it? Yes. Well, I'm not supposed to point.
Where'd you get the cape from?
Well, it was bought somewhere here in Manhattan. I don't know where. The costume department look after those things. We don't go out and buy our own costumes. We have enough to do. Yes. Next.
Yes, I never saw the episode where you did the song "I'll Be With You Always." I wonder if you could tell me what was going on in the show at that point.
It never was in the show, to my knowledge, but I remember. That was just a special record that we made, and all that script was handed to me one day. I don't, if anybody can correct me on any of the things I say, please help me, because, but I don't recall that ever having had anything to do with the show, so what's that weird noise? Sucking my teeth. Yes, who's next?
Hi, Mr. Frid. Recently I read that during your touring, people actually grabbed your arm and snatched the ring off your finger. Is that true?
Where are you?
Supposedly it happened 10 or 11 times.
Oh, well, that I was just exaggerated, but I think probably it was one or two, but I think I've spilled the beans on this one before. I like to spill the beans on all this because theater is theater. It's make-believe, and that's the charm of it. And that ring was the cheap green ring that was got at Woolworths or someplace. They painted it black. It looked like an onyx ring. There have been many million-dollar rings that have come out since. So it proved that nothing I ever wore. But that was just a very cheap ring, and I got lost. Well, I lost 2 or 3 of them, I think. I don't know, maybe I did lose a dozen. physically stronger than most people that are, so I didn't never bother me. On occasion, we would have people that people would travel with me would panic. One or two people were with me that were very nervous, but I said they're all like us, so be grateful for that. Now, who's next? Because I can't pick my own people.
I have two questions. Who is your favorite female lady that you work with on Dark Shadow? And how does it feel to have fans that are quite young, like myself? I'm only 24 and I'm interested in show.
Well,
I don't even remember really watching the TV.
Well, to answer your second question, I like to see young people coming along and sticking with us. But you were a fan of the reruns, right?
Yeah, like when I was a little kid, my mother would watch the show every day.
But she wouldn't let you.
I think me and my sister would sit and play around, really. No, I just remember liking it from London.
And be grousing a lot, I suppose. But anyway, as to your first question, I would find it very difficult to answer that one, especially having just seen Donna come on the screen. But there are two or three other beauties around here that I wouldn't want to put in the second or third position. And I must say, in connection with that question, that I've been amazed in the last 3 or 4 years to see how these lovely ladies have maintained their beauty, if not improved on their beauty over the years. And there are 3 or 4 of them here today, 4 or 5 of them here today, and you know who I mean. I think it's just incredible how beautiful they remain and grow. Maybe that's the point, they grow. Does that answer both your questions more or less? So I'm not going to say my favorite. I don't think I have one.
I've got 2 questions. One is stereotype.
Again, where are you? Oh, there, okay.
Well,
I
you
put my glasses on.
stereotype so that it kept you from doing things you might want to do in TV and movies. And my second question is, I saw you in another picture called The Devil's Daughter, or something, or played a mute servant, and I always felt, was that a come down to play like a small part like that after Dark Shadow?
And then would you repeat your first question again?
Were you ever stereotyped as pharmacists?
Oh.
Is that whatever that had kept you from anything to do
I see, right.
in
Well,
television you might want to do?
before I answer those questions, now, I don't want to get into, I don't know what the procedure is here, but I think there are more episodes to be seen in a half hour, right? And maybe we better hold off on those questions until... Am I pushing you there? But no, I think we better save that kind of question for later. So,
It's all right, Ron.
Yo, I remember what happened yesterday between us. So do you.
I'm sorry for having yesterday. I don't want to see you.
You said you loved me.
I did not want no more. I love Morgan.
Well, that was touch. Only a few hours ago, there was nothing you wanted more than mine. That changed. And that changed. I love you, Catherine. I love you very much.
Don't be gentle. Listen, they make me run away from you, but please. Don't be gentle with me.
with you. But I won't have it. Get out of here. Just get out of here, not more. I'm going to marry him. You understand that? I don't want you anymore.
You want me more than anyone. You always will. I will be back, Catherine. Because you will want me back.
Laura, please. That's not a bad scene. Well, now you better keep your comments to what you're seeing rather than getting into the philosophy of my life. Who has a question? Anybody have anything to say about that scene or want to know anything about it? If so, I will pass the question to somebody to answer. Yes, well, I see hands up. Aren't you getting to them?
Well, this isn't about that scene. I just want to make a comment. Before you said about "I'll be with you always," you weren't sure if that was used in the show. Robert Covert wrote a series of songs that were used just on the jukebox of the Blue Whale. That was one of them.
Yeah.
Along with the other two, I think the two were on the album.
Oh, that actually that used to be you used to hear it at Blue Whale.
Right, exactly. Before they put it on the album with your vocal
I see.
over it,
Oh, thanks.
it was just an instrumental of the Blue Whale.
Good.
I have two comments. The first is I saw you in our snippet all right. And I thought you were one.
Oh, yeah!
The second does
Not
pertain.
quite such a kisser, that one.
The second does pertain to that scene and scenes like that that have come along in the various soap operas over the years. When you look at scenes like that and compare them to love scenes of today in the soap operas, do you look back and say how naive we were, or do you think that was? What are your thoughts on that scene?
Well, I really wouldn't be able to. I can't comment on what I see myself doing, but I think romantic scenes they change their style in a way. I don't know that they change all that much. My one philosophy about love scenes in pictures today, they tend to, not so much in the olden days, but when two people have a strong emotional need for one another, and everyone in this room will obviously know what I'm talking about if you've ever had a love affair or wanted to have one, that you don't go right for the smack of the lips. Is when you have a tremendous need for one another. The need may be multiple. The needs may be all kinds of. You get to that sooner or later, yeah, but you don't. Frankly, I think the kissing scenes get to be a bore after a while. I mean, it's so what? I think a kiss is a beautiful thing to have, and it should be revered a little bit more, and therefore a little more discretion and less of it. Yeah, I think that's obvious, but apparently producers and directors don't go along with this. But I think that there are loads of love emotions to play without having to kiss every 3 seconds.
Do you think there was more of a naivete then? Everybody laughed when you grabbed Laura. I think there was more of a naivete.
Well, yeah, I think that was a directorial thing. Absolutely, you said. Of course, mind you, television is usually viewed privately as opposed to a movie or the stage. And so when one person giggles, everybody else giggles, and it picks up, and so that gets to be rather funny. But no, I think that was obviously directed. Dark Shadows was a bit obviously directed. That was my one complaint a lot, as with my own character. The bites were so ridiculously obvious that they were funny. They were the funniest things that happened in Dark Shadows. They should have been the most horrible, but they never were. They were always the funniest. So, but for those of you who loved Dark Shadows for years because you thought it was a big joke, fine. Well, let's do it like this. But if you take it seriously, that's totally wrong. You're absolutely right. It's far too jarring. soaps get as much finesse as they do because there's just no time for it. Marie was just telling me at lunch just a short while ago about working in a contemporary soap opera where the director sometimes they just don't give it any. She felt we didn't get enough, and we didn't get enough direction. But in today's soaps, they just tell you to go to it, and of course you do a little episode just for about 10 seconds. You do it, then you do it, you rehearse it, and then you tape it. You go on to the next one, much like a movie. So you get very little time in soaps. And you think you do these things once a day. There's very little time for finesse, and you just have to use your instincts as best you can. So we better go to the next one now.
You'll be leaving, my dear Roxanne, when I have just arrived.
But I didn't expect you. I promised Samantha I would spend the evening with her.
At Collinwood.
Of course.
Does Barnabas Collins know you will be there?
I have no idea, Lamar.
You've been seeing him?
He's been very kind.
Has he? Has he indeed? Wait till you hear how kind he has actually been.
What are you talking about?
His secret life.
And have you invented one for him?
I did not have to go to that trouble, my dear. No. It seems that all the while he was smiling at you, he was concealing one very important fact about himself. He's married. I have just met his wife.
You want to go on to another one? Because that was very short. Or do you have any more? Is that it?
Going on.
Sí, y desde ahí no se puede oír nada absolutamente.
Me pareció que tu voz salía del cuarto contigo.
Del cuarto, pero... Oh, estás equivocado.
No sé, me pareció oír tu voz.
Es imposible, estaba en el cuarto de costura. ¿Qué sucede, Barney?
Nada. Me pareció oír tu voz. Debo haberme equivocado. Las cosas pasan tan rápidamente que nada queda claro. Todo ha sido tan sorpresivo.
Sí. A mí también me parece que todo es mentira.
Sí. Mentira.
Estamos agotados. Querido, iré arriba a descansar un poco.
Sí, pichona.
Y no te preocupes tanto.
Lo intentaré. Miente. Yo registré el cuarto de costura cuando estaba buscando a la señorita Winters. Angélica estaba en su habitación. Aquellas extrañas palabras que le oí pronunciar. Corazón del fuego que arde en el corazón del hielo. ¿Por qué me mentiría? ¿Será posible que...? No, no puedo creerlo. No, mi esposa. Una extraña joven que asegura ser de otro tiempo. De ella sí podría creerlo. Una bruja. Sí, pero mi esposa. No, mi esposa no.
Now, there's no point in asking me what all that was about because I don't even know it in English. So, but I must tell you that just about 3 weeks ago, a month ago, I did one of my stories from my one-man show in Spanish. That's what Cornell, the cast in Montego. So, but I learned all of that as a result of having been in South America and seeing some of this in Spanish, and I got so intrigued by the language. And I think it's a much better language for Dark Shadows than English, because it has much more of that operatic bravura about it. I mean, the way they call me, Barnabas. Oh, this sissy Bernadette. me on the spot. The problems I must have given him with my little hesitations, because obviously his reading of the role is very bold and forthright and whatever. Whether he had, of course, he had a script in front of him, but probably was a person who could learn lines anyway. But he wondered what I was doing half the time in my readings, peculiar readings. His performance, of course, is much blunter than mine and much more forceful, where possibly he misses what I like to call nuances, which are really my going up in lines. But I noticed too, I even did one point there, I was looking for the word nada, and I had to look, which is nothing. And all I had to say was nothing, and there wasn't even the teleprompter for that incredible line I couldn't remember. Nothing. Any questions there?
Yes, I have two questions, actually. One, I've always been fascinated by the tragic aspect of Barnabas. Could you tell us what either classical or whatever tragic characters you maybe pulled from Barnabas, either from Shakespeare or... And the other question I have is, I was watching some of the early stuff this morning with you and Grayson Hall, especially when she was looking, when she didn't know you were a vampire, and she was trying to find you out, the bedroom scene when you come in to kill her and then she's standing there. Could you give us some reminiscences of Grayson Hall, especially in those early years when you were first getting to know each other?
Yes. Well, to answer your first one first, I guess, to oversimplify it, Macbeth might have influenced Barnabas. As a matter of fact, I think one of my first one-man shows was, well, indeed it was, at festivals, or one of the other organizations before, I guess, when I first started this. And I put a thing together, I guess here at one of these festivals, called The Genesis of Evil, which the first part was the roles I thought might have influenced Barnabas, and the second part was reading pieces written by bands. And for some of you newcomers, you wouldn't believe the number of, the amount of material that was written by bands. And we could have filled a library, could have filled that whole wall, that room, with two of them, I think, what I liked best. And so the first part was what led to Barnabas, and the second part was what came out of Barnabas. But the first part I read Macbeth, a little bit of Richard III, which is in my one-man Shakespeare play. By the way, my Shakespeare's Fools and Fiends has been renamed in the last few weeks with Jonathan Frid's Shakespearean Portraits. We've had enough Fools and Fiends, but Jonathan Frid's Fools and Fiends still exist. There are three things: Jonathan Frid's Fools and Fiends, Jonathan Frid's Shakespearean Portraits, and Jonathan Frid's Ridiculousness, which you'll get a taste of tomorrow if you're all here. Anyway, oh, yes, that's a very complicated question, but basically, I suppose those roles. But why did I get to play those roles to start with? Do I have a kind of tragic thing about life or something? I don't know what it is, but I think that certainly Macbeth, as much as any of them, influenced that. All of my roles influence each other. It's all part of your own self, expressing itself in these many ways. Grayson, yes, Grayson and I had a ball. She had a tremendous sense of humor. It was one of the things that I missed when Dark Shadows finished. She was so easy to get along with. And she had a moment. She was temperamental, but so did I. No, we got along fine. I don't ever remember our ever having a squabble. In fact, I may have driven her up the wall a few times, but she never seemed to let it bother her outwardly. And we had a good time, and Sam, and I'm glad to see their son is here today. I couldn't get over the change. And I'm glad he's going to be following me, coming right up. By the way, how am I for time? I'm probably overtime. I was back there cursing Lara for taking so long. Now here I'm running at the mouth up here, and I should be getting off. I think if we each had a half hour, right?
You have about 15 more minutes.
I have 15 more minutes? Good heavens. I'm learning something. Well, who has another question?
Hi, I'm just curious about one thing on the other side. I was wondering, how far into a story did you you know the conclusion? In other words, when you first got involved with the Leviathan, did you know exactly how it was going to end? And did you know, in other words, the whole 6-month story, or did things change drastically throughout each week?
Well, I better speak for myself there. I never knew what was going on a week later, only 6 months. I mean, I remember Dan coming into it. I've told this story before, I think. Maybe I haven't, but early on, I guess he came in to tell me the outline of the story going into the past, I guess. Because it was after, I've only been on a few weeks. And I was, of course, buried in the script and picking every moment upstairs in the studio, looking, trying to find the time. And he came in, and we were very friendly at that point. He said, "John, I got this great news story." He was like a big kid. He really was. He was like a baby with a great idea for a story. Let's play this game. And he got all excited. He started telling me this whole plot outline, and I was saying to myself, "Oh, please, will you go away? I just want to learn the plot for the day. I'm not remotely interested in the next episode or the next series or the next whatever." So I was never into that. In a sense, soap opera is very much like real life to me as an actor, because I never, I don't know what I'm going to be doing in particular tomorrow. I have some vague idea. I haven't talked very much about it, but you don't find your life have that great detail, nor do you in soaps. Now, when you're in a play, you know every inch of the play, from beginning to end. If you have a movie, you can read the script, and you've got the beginning, the middle, and the end, and you can figure out where you have to go and shape a performance. But with soaps, it's very much like real life. Especially if you're going to be on it for 10 or 15 years, or even a year, you just go with it from day to day and make the most of it. You don't know how it's going to end, particularly. And so, no, I speaking for myself, now I'm sure Grayson probably knew a lot more than we would, because her husband was writing the damn things. And so she would know a lot more, and anybody that knew the authors, the writers, would probably, if they were curious enough, they would ask. And as a matter of fact, I think, as I recall, I think Grayson did say one day, "You think I know everything? I don't know what's going on." So she herself often never knew what was going to come, what was coming ahead. And of course, Dan was changing. I mean, when the ratings weren't, or the story wasn't going well, they would shift it in another direction. Emphasize one character that may have been doing well over another, or whatever. It's a lot of give and take with the progression of a story. But obviously, you have to have certain scripts ready, because there's so much in the production part of it that needs to be known.
Yes, I wanted to know if it was by your own choice that you did not appear in The Night of Dark Shadows.
Yes, it was.
Any reason for that?
Well, that's no reason at all. I just was my phone. So there. That was an honest answer. Yes.
Jonathan, I was wondering if you can give us some information on the home video releases of the Dark Shadows episodes.
Well, nothing really. I was called up to Las Vegas suddenly. I was on a trip to Canada, and I flew from Toronto up there just to help promote this convention out there. And I must say, it's what they call a software convention with video. And I, of course, that whole world's really quite new to me. And I know it exists, but anyway, I never saw such a convention in my life. It looked like a World's Fair. It was enormous thing I ever saw. But no, as what they're doing, I don't think they quite know themselves at this point. These people who are putting it out confess to being merely boxers, or whatever the word I would want, for they just put things in packages and sell them. They don't produce things. So the thought was thrown at them by various people among us that they do some sort of editing, or even reshape them, the episodes, and build around the stories. There are all kinds of ideas. And this guy confessed, he said, "Well, I'm not in that kind of business, but it all sounds very interesting." So I don't know whether they're going to do that, whether they're just going to package the episodes as they are, whether they're going to edit them a little bit, or really do a total editing. just don't know. I really have no idea. I voiced my opinion about it, and I think they should be very heavily edited. And he said, well, what about, and nothing to do with my performance, I mean, just the story should be tightened up. But he said, well, what about the fans will be outraged? And I said, well, okay, maybe some of them will, but that's up to you. I mean, I'm just speaking my opinion. But I said, but I think you people have to, I don't know the first thing about marketing or business as far as that goes, but it seemed to me that if you package something like that, you've got to reach millions of people, not just a few thousand or maybe even a few hundred fans who would buy this. You know, there are not that many of you are going to go there and buy all these things. Maybe you will, I don't know. A lot of you already have them. So, you see, you've got to sell millions of these things, hundreds of thousands of them. Okay, I think I'll stir up a little action. Go ahead.
Mr. Collins.
Mr. Collins. Roxanne, what is it?
Is it true? Are you married?
Yes, it is. I am.
I must go to my sister.
Roxanne, forgive me. There's no possible way for me to explain this.
No, there's not, is there?
I've enjoyed your company so much. We've had such understanding.
Yes, I thought so too. But I was wrong. Terribly wrong.
Roxanne, this is my wife, Roxanne Drew.
Well, how do you do, Miss Drew? Mrs. Collins? Won't you stay and have some tea with us? No. No, thank you. My sister is waiting for me. So, she is the one.
Well, Dan, you got to pick those lovely ones, I must say. I think of the numbers of beautiful women that were in that show, and there were two of the classic ones right there. Something to say about that, and I can't think of the name of something you have done. Well, it was a general sort of thing. I feel that the whole show by this time has, in certain ways, become kind of, has a solidity about it. I just think the performances have a, maybe I should speak for myself, but I felt a little easier in those scenes than I did when I was first on the show. And I think those scenes we've seen today, I think, have a good look about them, apart from one or two impulsive moments. But on the whole, I think they're very good scenes. I'm rather pleased to have been part of them. Is there time for another one?
John, I was wondering, before you actually started the part, or when you just started, how did you feel about playing a vampire? And were you totally at the mercy of the writers, or could you interject your thoughts and feelings about the character? And now when you look back upon it, how does it compare with the other roles you've played in your career?
Well, actors are always at the mercy of the writers, or we'd be doing our own writing, but actors don't know how to write very often, so we're hired to express writers' thoughts and ideas. We're certainly slaves to Shakespeare. We don't meddle, although some people do mess around with Shakespeare. But anyway, no, I didn't feel, first of all, I thought it was amusing that I was going to play a vampire, but then as soon as I knew the word, I thought, well, I'm going to do it just instinctively. Well, let's see what we can make up. I suppose that was my first thought. I've never thought of that before. I've never expressed it quite this way before. But probably my first thought when I first heard that I was going to do this role, or saw a script, I'll say, when I was flipping the page, I said, well, let's see what we can make of it. Meaning, what are we going to do with this word vampire? And monster into the story and change the whole quality of it. Well, I didn't know that at the time. I just took the role and said, well, now let's make him more interesting than just being a vampire, as I would with a murderer. If I know I'm going to play a role as a murderer, I want to certainly investigate what makes him want to be a murderer and so on and so on. But that's with any actor, I think. There's nothing unusual about this. It's just as with an alcoholic. If you're playing an alcoholic and a troubled one, you make him a troubled one, or you make him a funny one, as they used to do back in the 30s. Cary Grant used to play wonderful drunks, and it was very funny doing it. But if you're playing an alcoholic with a problem, as I did with Barnes, I made it a problem. But I don't think it was a mutual thing. It was discussed with the writers. Although I must say, I don't think this has ever happened to me before, and very few actors. It was interesting last night. This moment came back to me as I was going over to the old studio, the party there last night, and I came up 10th Avenue. I approached it from 10th Avenue. No, I approached it from 9th Avenue, went up, down, went in the old entrance, tried to get in the old entrance, found it was on the other side of the building, so I went around on 10th Avenue. And I hardly was ever down at that corner, but I remember very vividly the first time I was at that corner, 10th and 53rd, was coming up in a taxi on a Saturday afternoon. I'd been called into the studio before I even did my first episode, before I even rehearsed it. And I was called up to come up and meet a group of people at the studio. And I thought, oh, I'm getting canned already. I mean, I haven't even got to the first episode done yet. And they're changing their minds. I mean, that's part of my problem. And so anyway, I remember getting out of that corner and thinking, well, here goes another job down the drain. And I went in and went upstairs. I was told to go upstairs. They're waiting for you upstairs. And I thought, oh, God, I can't face this. And I went up, and there was indeed a whole table of writers and I don't know the directors there. I can't remember who was there, but I remember two of the writers. I don't think Sam was the writer at that point. I'm not sure. I can remember Ron Stroke being there, and I guess the original writer, the only time I ever met him, Wallace. He was there, I think, and he was the only time I ever met him. Anyway, they were all there waiting for me. They wanted to discuss this role with me. Well, I thought I'd never had this happen in my life before. I mean, what's going on here? They wanted to give us their ideas of what they thought the role should be. And I don't think, Dan wasn't there. I don't think, no, he was still in Europe. So anyway, that was an unusual thing. But even then, I didn't take it all that seriously. But I found out later that they were trying to do something with this show to give it some extra quality to get the ratings up. So that was. But I mean, so it wasn't as if I brought this whole idea myself. It was their idea too. It was a give and take thing. And I think I've always felt that Ron Stroke has much to do with my casting because he was at Yale when I was there. He was a playwriting student when I was a directing student, and I was acting a lot, playing a lot of villains at the time. And I always played against the obvious villainy of any role. And I think Ron was aware of that, and so he probably had, I'm sure he once suggested that they even interview me. I have a feeling, I'm not sure about that. Although he was talking at one of these festivals about 2 years ago, and I was overhearing him, he was on before me, and he was talking in that vein, and I sort of gathered from that he had something to do with the my being cast. Well, time for, whether we have something more to watch, or what's next?
That's it.
That's it. Thank you very much, and we'll see you later. I don't know first thing about those videotapes.